Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot. I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. I'm using that time to attempt to visit every civil parish in England. You're watching the Erewash series. Erewash is one of the 9 subdivisions of the county of Derbyshire. There are 14 civil parishes within it. Let's see which one we're in today. How do everybody? Welcome back to Erewash. I'm beginning this one sat in a very small garden right next to a block of public toilets. And just beyond those toilets there's a bridge and it runs over the Erewash Canal. It's over there. And the waterways are an important part of this place. Its name is Sandiacre. This Erewash episode is sponsored by Past Days, a family history blog by June Terrington. You'll find a link in the description. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. Welcome to Sandiacre in the borough of Erewash. This is a former market town according to its signs. It stands on the banks of the River Erewash just within Derbyshire and it's on the border with Nottinghamshire. Don't be fooled by those signs, this is a large village effectively. The parish council does not have town status, but it's often referred to as a town by many. After all, it is big enough. The origin of the name Sandiacre has been given various interpretations, but the most likely is that it comes from the Saxon sond, meaning sandy, and oecer, meaning field. We are 7 miles west of Nottingham and 9 miles east of Derby here, and Sandiacre is part of the Greater Nottingham urban area, and it's adjoined by the unparished Long Eaton to the south. Sandiacre was a small, mainly agricultural village until industrialisation in the 19th century, when lace making and other industries became established here. 3 substantial lace factories were built in the late 19th century because the increase in the number of lace machines in Nottingham could not be accommodated there. All lace production in Sandiacre had ceased by the 1990s. Nowadays, with its much more residential makeup, this is an ideal place to live if you commute to Derby or to Nottingham, with the A52 running right through the boundaries. We begin our trek around Sandiacre on Derby Road, right in the heart of what is a town in all but name. This was formerly a small village, which has grown considerably, mainly down to 2 things. Those would be the discovery of local ironstone, which saw the development of Stanton Ironworks in 1787, and the more recent Toton Sidings Railway Depot, a major employer for many years. There are bus services to Sandiacre which run on a moderately frequent basis towards Nottingham and Derby. There's no railway station, but there used to be. It was a stop on the Midland Railway called Stapleford and Sandiacre. The road from Nottingham to Derby was a turnpike road from 1759 until 1870. The White Lion pub, seen here, was built in the 1930s and it stands on the site of a coaching inn called the Coach and Horses. There are 3 public houses in the vicinity of a central bridge, which we're coming to, which may have served as coaching inns. The bridge crosses Sandiacre's most important waterway. Straight away, without a great deal of walking, we're in Sandiacre town centre, and this crossroads in the middle seems to be quite a problem traffic-wise. I was sat in that queue of traffic about 10 minutes ago and decided to park on Dorothy Avenue instead of where I was originally going to go, which was up here over the bridge. That was my starting point, but I wasn't going to sit in that traffic. It seems to be that this is a major traffic problem in the centre of the town. Doesn't affect me greatly, I can walk from anywhere on the route. We're going over that bridge though, because in the distance this lorry's about to get in the way, so I'll move. In the distance you can see a chimney. That was the first major landmark I was heading for. Here's the Red Lion. This is a large two-roomed pub situated at that central crossroads. According to What Pub, 2 red lions used to stand outside it. It was refurbished as recently as 2015. Passing right through the centre of Sandiacre is the Erewash Canal. The canal towpath forms part of the Erewash Valley Trail, and canal boats regularly moor alongside the canal at Padmore moorings. The Erewash Canal is still used, although these days it's much more about leisure traffic than it is commercial. In 1968, the Erewash Canal Preservation and Development Association was formed. That Heritage Board gives you some fabulous bits of information about what life was like here years ago. Back in the here and now, we have a parish notice board to see to, which is right next door. Now we have to cross the canal on a bridge, which we'll come back to later. Construction of the Erewash Canal, by the way, began in 1777 and it was completed in 1779. It stood the test of time well. So in a short while we'll be heading up the side of the canal. We need the 3rd left turn to get to where I need to go. That's the first, and between the first and the 3rd there's a row of shops, and opposite a massive Lidl supermarket. Derby Road has now become Station Road, and the shops and businesses continue on this side of the waterway. Station Road was once known as the Golden Mile. Lidl is the main supermarket here now. After a quick walk up Regent Street and through some newer housing, we're at another watercourse. This is the River Erewash, both the parish and district boundary with Broxtowe. This building is where I should have started but for all the traffic. This is Sandiacre's largest landmark, which can be seen from almost anywhere. This is the super impressive Springfield Mill. Now, in much the same way as the mill we saw in Draycott, this has been turned into a block of flats as well. And the reason it's got scaffolding around it at the moment is because recently it suffered a fire, so it's having that damage repaired. It really is one of the most impressive buildings that Erewash has. Springfield Mill was built in 1888 as a lace mill. It's the largest reminder of Sandiacre's industrial heritage, and the most striking too. The mill suffered that aforementioned fire in April of 2020. It caused extensive damage. Over the canal there are other former industrial buildings. This area has changed so much since the Industrial Revolution, but it's good to see it's not been flattened. That might have something to do with there being 3 conservation areas in Sandiacre. These are Cloudside, Sandiacre Lock and the Sandiacre Canal side, which includes both Padmore moorings and the area around Springfield Mill. We'll be back to the canal later, but for now we're crossing this bridge, which originally led to a water-powered corn mill. Things are about to get hilly. So this is a walking route that will focus more on the north of Sandiacre than the south. A little later on though, I'm not going to leave the south out. I will hop into the car and I'll drive around the southern section of the town, so that gets its own part as well. I don't want to make it seem like I've favoured the north over the south. It's just easier to walk around the north than it is the south. I'm looking for a footpath at the moment. It'll take us up towards one of Sandiacre's schools. It should just be here on the left somewhere. Sandiacre has 3 schools. These are Lady Cross Infant School, Friesland Specialist Performing Arts College, and the one we're stood outside here. This is the rather lovely named Cloudside Academy. Cloudside Junior School, a forerunner to the academy, was opened in 1972 by Margaret Thatcher. Football now, and opposite the school is St Giles Park, which is where we find Sandiacre Town. Sandiacre Town Football Club was formed in 1978 by Malk Turton and Pete Smith. In 1982, work started on building the club headquarters at St Giles Park, and it was officially opened in 1984. I had to put the camera as high as it would reach up there to see into the ground. St Giles Park isn't just about Sandiacre's football team, it's also one of the town's open green spaces. Here's a play park. Yeah, they're not your best friend, high iron railings, are they, when you're trying to film something that's behind them? But thankfully my tripod extends, so I was able to at least get something of a shot of the football club. There should be no such problems with this next place because it's the church, which is just up this hill, and the spire is peeking out above those trees. St Giles Park is named after the parish church. After climbing a pretty steep hill, we find ourselves at St Giles's Church, which dates back to the 10th or 11th century, depending on your source. The chancel was added around 1342, and the church has been restored 3 times in 1855, 1866 and 1883. The latest of those provided new pews, a new organ, new bells and gas chandeliers. It's since had its organ replaced. The current organ was built by Nigel Church in 1977. One thing I found quite amazing about this church was just how tall it is. It was quite deceptively large. Right next door is Sandiacre's parish cemetery, and Sandiacre's old village lockup is also standing, and that's also near to the church. I found a cracking picture of that, which is coming later. In general, Erewash is a very flat part of Derbyshire. It is when you compare it to other places such like as High Peak and the Derbyshire Dales and parts of North East Derbyshire and parts of Bolsover as well. But that has to be the steepest hill that Sandiacre has to get up to the church here. It's quite a long trek up that hill, and it's not a shallow incline, I'll put it that way. Anyway, we are virtually at the northernmost end of Sandiacre now, and we're heading for a nature reserve next. Welcome to Stony Clouds Nature Reserve. This is what's known as a bunter sandstone escarpment, and it lies at the northern end of the village. The River Erewash lies in the valley below to the east. In 1991, the Borough Council purchased land at Stony Clouds for use as public open space, and it's now maintained as a nature reserve. This is part of an area of sandy soil close to and around St Giles. The sandy soil is in contrast with what is otherwise surrounding clay. That means this area could be the sandy field or Sandiacre from which the settlement took its name. The more you know, eh? So a word to the wise for anybody who walks around a lot: it's very easy to get lost in woods like those. It's important to have a route plan or a compass or a map or something to guide you, because once you get going through a wood, you haven't really got any discernible landmarks around you to sort of pinpoint your location, because it's basically all trees or undergrowth or whatever. You haven't really got any buildings or any other things to sort of latch onto if you get lost. So yeah, always helpful to carry something along those lines. This next area is quite residential, so there's not a lot to film. There is, however, a shop here which doubles as a post office. This is the only post office I came across, but I'm pretty sure there are others here. This is Lady Cross House. This is a care home and houses people with a range of needs, including the physical and sensory, as well as providing care for dementia and other mental health issues. This area refers a lot to Doncaster, but it's nothing to do with South Yorkshire. It refers to Sir Robert Doncaster, whose eldest son Robert was killed in the war. There's a memorial institute close to here. Certainly one thing Sandiacre does very well is parks and recreational spaces. There are quite a few of these. I think there's only one that my route actually omits, and that's Springfield Park, which is in the south of the town. I'll be driving around that, not actually onto it, of course, later. Now, at the southern end of this one here, there's what I believe to be a library. Let's go and check it out. This park has a BMX track, not something you see in everyday life usually. Mind you, I suppose this is just a scaled down version of a motocross track, and we've come across a few of those before now. That building was indeed a library which faces Doncaster Avenue. This is the street where the Sandiacre Memorial Institute can be found, built in 1920 to remember the 69 men lost in World War I. The route now passes the Methodist Church, which is in the centre of the village on Butt Street. Methodism was strong in this area. John Wesley is known to have preached in Sandiacre in 1770. So as you can see here, the Methodist Church is right next to the car wash which you filmed earlier. And that's effectively a full circle because I'm parked just over there, but I'm going to add a little bit on to the route. I'm going to go down here and take you around a tiny bit of the south of the town before I drive around the rest of it later. This building had me interested. It looks like it could have been a shop earlier in its time. It wasn't occupied as far as I could tell, so what might have been, Sandiacre folk? Let me know. Whatever it is, it's directly opposite the Derby Road Trade Centre. There are 10 businesses listed as being in here, one of which seemed weird. It's called the Robin Hood Folk Festival. I wonder what that's all about. This is a medical centre next. The next thing is to do with healthcare too. Dr. Edward Bland came to Sandiacre in the early 1850s and he established a medical practice on Station Road. Bland served the community for over 40 years. He died in 1909 and in his will he left legacies to several charitable causes together with money for these almshouses built in 1910 by George Bastable. Okay, because we're on Woodside Road, we're now south of the Derby Road, which means we're in the south of the town, and we're heading for yet another park. We're now in another one of Sandiacre's uphill residential areas, this time just to the south of the Derby Road. There's a neat little row of shops here. There's also some pretty impressive views. This is Hayworth Road Park, which has all the usual park-related facilities. This was my favourite part of the walk because you can see practically the whole settlement from up here. Now you might remember in the Ockbrook and Erewash episode we walked over the A52. Here in Sandiacre we're about to walk under it, not just once but twice. We met the A52 before in Ockbrook and Erewash, but there we spoke about Brian Clough, with it being named in honour of the former Derby County and Nottingham Forest manager. The A52 of course is a post-1950 construction crossing Sandiacre on a flyover. Even though the surrounding properties are older, many have changed little since it was built. We'll cross under the road again later, but using a very different route to do so. This brings us to the corner of Austin's Drive, where there's an antique shop called Memory Lane. Now we're going back to the canal. We've hit a small basin immediately above Sandiacre Lock, which is number 11 on the Erewash Canal. This was once the terminus of the now defunct Derby Canal, the two waterways joining here. So this is where the Erewash Canal and the Derby Canal joined each other at Sandiacre Lock. As you can see, there's not much left of the lock now, although according to this sign it's going to be reinstated. It's another part of the Derby Canal's restoration programme. We mentioned that briefly in the Draycott Church Wilne episode. And the bridge is still here, but obviously the canal stops just here. You can't go any further on the water at this point off the Erewash Canal, which is just there. Now, also here, I've got a boundary anomaly to tell you about. Where I'm standing right now is right on the boundary between Sandiacre and the unparished area of Long Eaton. But we're not going to be in the unparished area for very long. If you walk down this road here, this takes you to another public footpath crossing Long Eaton and back into Sandiacre. This is a very strange little anomaly where there's a tiny bit of Long Eaton that sticks up like this, and Sandiacre doesn't cover it. But on either side of this area is Sandiacre civil parish. So we're heading for the bottom lock, which is this here. And once we get over this bridge onto that footpath you can see on the other side of the lock, we're back into Sandiacre, and we can walk up this footpath and back underneath the A52 and head for the next major landmark, which is Sandiacre's cricket ground. The Derby Canal entered the junction with the Erewash Canal by going down through Sandiacre Bottom Lock, the old lock we saw a moment ago, before exiting under Lock Lane Bridge. Sandiacre Bottom Lock, like all other Derby Canal locks, was a wide lock at 72 feet long by 14 feet wide. It was also 14 feet deep. There was also a Sandiacre Top Lock, 100 metres away, which is now buried under a path. After passing back under the A52, we're back in the centre of Sandiacre, close to the bridge, which we stood on earlier. Here's a board about the Erewash Valley Trail, part of which we've just walked on. There's a former chapel on the other side of this bridge, built for the United Methodist Free Church in 1887. It closed in 1965, but has now been refurbished and is back in use as an events hall. So if you live in Sandiacre and you know it fairly well, you'll probably have realised the mistake I made. I was on the wrong side of the canal to get to the cricket ground. I should have turned round at the lock, but I forgot all about doing that and just walked up the Erewash Valley Trail instead. No matter, because the cricket ground is literally just down here, not a million miles away from where I parked. So let's go and find that. That's basically the last landmark on the main walk. Sandiacre Town Cricket Club has been established for over 150 years and still plays on its original ground at Longmoor Lane. The club has an excellent pavilion and excellent training facilities. They also have a second ground in Breaston. The club runs 5 adult sides and 7 junior teams, and it's been league champions 3 times, as well as national cup winners in 2003 and 2014. Oh, and before we leave Sandiacre behind, I have to mention the toilet block again, where I began a while back. Not every place has one, but these are a welcome sight after a 2-hour walk. And that's it, now we are full circle all the way around Sandiacre, which means you guys need today's picture bit. Then we're going to hop into the car and drive around the rest of the south of the town. So to finish, we're taking a drive around the rest of Sandiacre. It's a long old drive this, but I tried to make sure it caught as much as possible. Obviously, there's no way on earth it can possibly catch everything. Well, not unless I spend a small fortune on petrol, that is. The route takes us over the motorway junction where the A52 and the M1 meet. That's known as Sandiacre Interchange, or as Junction 25 of the M1. It then passes some hotels which are right on the edge of the motorway, including a Holiday Inn and a Novotel, as well as a highways depot just off the junction, which the camera probably didn't pick up. After that, it's a run down to the other end of Longmoor Lane before a trip around the residential area surrounding Sandiacre's final park, that's Springfield Park, and the route also takes in the Bridge Inn, another local pub. I'll stop talking now and let you watch the drive, and I'll meet you at the other end. And with that, that's the parish of Sandiacre, which leaves one left on our journey through Erewash. It meant a drive through Long Eaton to find the place where Derbyshire, Nottinghamshire and Leicestershire all meet. We'll see that next week, But for now, this has been the parish of Sandiacre, and I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot, and I'm out.